You know, it's not always racism. We've seen on the news what happened in Baltimore like 1 month ago. And we've seen on tape how white police officers, were shooting black people for no reason. But we also saw black officers killing black people for no reason. Okay? So, listen, just because someone of color is being mistreated by someone that's Caucasian, that does not mean that it's always racism. There can be racism, belief that a certain group of people are superior to others. That can play a role, but it's not always racism, okay? There is this thing called the mob mentality. At least, I name it the mob mentality, okay? And I'm going to explain what I mean with the mob mentality.
Station
Hold on.
U bevindt zich in metrolijn C richting de Terp. Station Heemraadlaan.
Okay. What the mob mentality basically implies is that human beings, I'm not talking to whether someone is Christian or unsaved, I'm just talking about what the human tendencies are. And just like a screwdriver, there's nothing wrong with a screwdriver, but you can also kill someone with a screwdriver. So the screwdriver itself is neutral, but it can still go wrong if the wrong individual has a screwdriver. So look at it that way. Human beings are mimetic beings. So mimetic means we imitate each other. It's because we imitate one another that we develop a social cohesion with each other, and that generates a feeling of belonging and emotional attachment. That's a soul tie, and that's a healthy thing. That's how human beings operate. That's how all human relationships work. However, human beings are designed to reflect the Most High first. And that's the problem when we don't reflect the Most High first, you see, then our whole purpose as human beings
Station Spijkenisse Centrum. Busstation
it becomes twisted.
Spijkenisse Medisch Centrum.
You see?
Station Spijkenisse Centrum.
Because this is the deal. As a human being, you ought to reflect God first. Then other human beings see your reflection of God, and then they imitate that reflection of God. You understand? So when someone does not reflect Christ, then they are reflecting an idol, literally. And what happens is, when a group of people are together for a longer period of time, they will begin to reflect each other by imitating one another. And we feel safe when we are in a homogeneous environment where everyone does the same thing, because it gives you a sense of power, because at least you think you know what will happen. If A happens, you know that if you push this button, that will happen. So it gives you a sense of control. You don't have control, but it gives you a sense of control. So human beings are mimetic beings. We imitate. And that imitation leads to a social situation and a feeling of belonging that creates a soul tie. People tend to place that soul tie above everything else. So what happens is, if you have a group of people together, let's say you have 20 people working in a company, and they all have the same, they all think the same way, because they are beings, they are separate entities, but they do have a common way of thinking, a common way of behaving, and a common way of responding. They are a homogeneous community. Now the employer also is the same way as the employees. So now the employer decides to hire another employee. And this employee does not have the same way of thinking as his colleagues. He tends to be very covert, very hidden. Well, the environment of the company is quite aggressive, quite direct. What will happen is that when that covert individual enters into that community, he's there to do his job, so he will do his job and he will go home and will treat others with kindness. So on that superficial level, no, there's no issues. But the moment problems arise, the moment danger arrives, or let me say it better, the moment it appears as if there's danger, human beings tend to hold on to what's comfortable towards them, to what they are attached to. So those 20 employees will then vomit out their new colleague who's quite covert. Why? Because they have attached themselves to being open and aggressive. So when danger happens, they tend to hold on to that. And when danger appears, or when it appears as if there's danger, folks tend to give in to their emotions, because we are emotional beings also. And we tend to generate...
Hoogvliet. Station Hoogvliet.
We tend to develop a negative attitude towards a certain event or towards a certain threat. And just think about this. When this happens, folks are looking for a release from negative energy. And they will always look for someone to pour out all their negativity upon. So the employee that's quite covert, he's in trouble. And that's basically how the world operates. Because when conflict arises, when trouble comes, the last thing people like to do is look at themselves and acknowledge that they might have contributed to the issue. Why? Because to acknowledge that would mean to acknowledge that you're not in control and you don't have any control. So to attract people's egos, they're always looking for scapegoats.
Station Tussenwater. Let op, links uitstappen. U bevindt zich in metrolijn C richting de Terp. U kunt hier overstappen op metrolijn D richting Rotterdam Centraal. Station Tussenwater.
So, what we often see as racism, it's not really racism, it's just a manifestation of a mob mentality. Or there was this scholar, René Girard, from France, and he called it the scapegoat mechanism. You will find this mob mentality everywhere. You will find it within families, you'll find it on the workplace, you'll find it in politics, in church also. It's a form to preserve. It's a form of preserving a way of thinking that does not, that has no, it's not in harmony with reality. That's basically what it is. So think about this. If you have an employer and you apply for a job, from your perspective, it's me applying for a job. If I get a job, I do my job, I treat my colleagues and the customers with respect and kindness, and at the end of the month, I get my salary. It's just a contract towards you. Look at it from the perspective of the employer. When an employer hires you, he becomes responsible towards you for your safety. if anything happens to you on the workplace, he's in trouble. So employers are often aware of the mob mentality. So that's why most companies, they build a profile and they're looking for employees that reflect that profile. So it doesn't matter if you have the degree, if you have the papers, if you don't match the profile they've sketched, then probably they won't hire you at the job, even if you're qualified for a job. There are exceptions, for example with pilots, because it's very hard to build profiles for pilots and hire someone that doesn't qualify, because it will endanger a lot of people and cause a lot of political harm also. Just think about Andreas Lubitz, that guy from, I believe it was Germany, that killed a lot of people by willingly making the plane crash. You see, but from the perspective of the employer, he is taking a risk with anyone he hires at a job. And if the employer is aware that you don't match the profile and he still hires you, he's basically taking a risk with your life. Because when people perceive danger, often they don't act rationally, they act emotionally, and things can go out of hand quite easy.
Station Pernis. Let op, links uitstappen. Station Pernis.
And you see, that's why employers tend to keep some distance towards them and employees. Do not be victimized. So begin to perceive things from a different perspective. Okay, if there's racism, there is, but it's not always racism. Sometimes it's the best for you that certain groups do not accept you. Because if they did, your life might have been in danger. So I might make more movies about the mob mentality and give some examples, but see this as a quick summary of what the mob mentality is. And realize that this thing goes very deep. It's not something superficial, it's something we all get in touch with it sooner or later. Either we are the victimizers or we are the victims. And that being said, y'all, be blessed and may the grace of Christ Jesus be with you.